Welcome to Unstoppable, where dreams turn into plans and plans turn into powerful action. Hosted by Paula Swain, financial planner, business owner, grandma, and queen of reinvention. This show is for women ready to stop surviving and start thriving. We'll laugh, we'll learn, and we'll tackle the messy, beautiful, in-between parts of life that no one really talks about, but we all live through. This is Unstoppable.
Hi, and welcome to Unstoppable. I'm Paula Swain, your host and financial planner with the Financial Center for Women. So we have talked in the past about nutrition, and we've talked about hormones, and I'm still confused. So we are going to dive deeper into the hormones for us women. I don't know, Susan, are we going to talk about men's hormones?
A lot of what we're going to talk about is gender neutral. There'll be some specific things for women.
Okay, so we have the hormone expert here. And you know what? I'm just now going to let her introduce herself.
Hello, I'm good to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
I'm Susan Carrier, and I'm a functional nutritional consultant and metabolic coach. And I really work to help people bring the systems and organs of their body back into alignment, which hormones play a big role in.
Well, when I think of hormones, I automatically think of estrogen, progesterone, and thyroid.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that I always think of because that's what I've had issues with, my thyroid. And of course, being a woman, you know, postmenopausal, we have the whole estrogen and progesterone. But there's a lot more hormones that we don't even really talk about.
Yeah, so hormones affect almost every system in your body. Metabolism, reproductive health, sleep, energy, mood, everything, stress. So other really popular hormones would be insulin, which is your sugar, part of metabolism.
That's a hormone? Mm-hmm. Oh, I didn't know that.
Cortisol and adrenaline, you've probably heard of them. Those are stress hormones. There's also hormones for hunger and satiety. There's hormones that work in opposition and hormones that work together. So when I think about hormones, I think of a constellation because this is what's cool but complicated. They're really interconnected. One hormone almost always will impact another. So some move together and some move in opposition. So when you think of hormones, think of a constellation. Think of how all the stars tell a story. That's kind of how hormones work in the body. But they can affect virtually everything, and sometimes getting them in balance can be complicated because there's so many things that impact them and because they're so interconnected.
Can you get them in balance?
You absolutely can.
Really?
You can. I've done it. And here's the truth. Everybody says, what should I do? Is there one thing? No. If there was one thing that worked for everyone, we all would have done it.
I think there should be one pill that takes care of my hormones, my proper nutrition, my proper exercise, does all that. Just one pill.
Well, that's called you. You're the one pill.
I don't want to be the one pill. I just want to take it.
But I believe you are because you have what's so exciting about this day and age versus 20 years ago when I started my health journey is how much information is available. It's so much easier today to understand how things work, to find credible mentors, resources, medical providers, influencers.
And I think it's more confusing.
You bring up an excellent point. It is a confusing time because there's differing points of views. And I'll tell you the foundation of functional nutrition and health, which really helped clarify a lot for me. 3 things are true. We're all unique, it's all connected, and everything matters. That's why it's confusing, because you and I are completely different. We might look the same, we might have the same dimensions, we might have the same career, we might have a similar personality, but what our bodies are going through could be completely different. And it's made up of 2 things, your genes, but here's the cool thing. At most, genes represent 30% of your health outcomes. I've heard between 20 and 30%. The other 60 or 70% is in your control, and that's called your lifestyle. Now, the one thing that's a little bit difficult about that is you have this concept called total load. It's everything in your life up to today that's influencing your health and your body. So think about it from, was it a vaginal or cesarean birth? Did you have antibiotics as a child? Have you had food poisoning? Was there trauma in your childhood? Do you exercise? Do you see the sunlight? All of that are things that impact your harmony, your body's ability to perform the way it's intended to. So we have genes and a total load, and that makes up kind of how our health represents itself. So your genes and my genes are different, and your total load and my total load are different. That's why it can be confusing, because nobody's the same, and what works for you may not work for me.
Well, that becomes a problem because with, so much media, you hear so many things and you think, okay, well, they say that, just in exercise, you should get, 30 minutes a day of cardio. Now they're saying every day. Now they're saying you don't need 30 days of cardio.
Yeah.
Now they're saying, weight training, I know, of course, as women, we need it for bone density and stuff, but how much is enough? And then, we were at a nutrition conversation or seminar yesterday, and what foods are good and what foods are bad, and
it is confusing.
You walk away and you're just like, I'm just not going to do anything.
Well, and that's understandable. I think two things happen here. One, science and what we know is always changing. When I started doing this, and I've been studying nutrition unofficially for over a decade, officially for 5 years, they told me that my lifestyle was 60% of my health outcomes, 70%, 80%. I think we learn stuff all the time. So part of it is we are getting smarter because of science and biology and all the great technologies available today. So that's part of it. But also I think you have different philosophies based upon sometimes self-motivated interests, sometimes political, sometimes just fundamental beliefs of things that might have been true 10 years ago that we've learned more about. When you think about exercise, undeniably lifting heavy for women, critically important. I could talk about it at length and boredom, but it not only protects your bones, muscle burns more than fat. It helps your metabolism, your endocrine. It has so many benefits beyond just protecting bones. Cardio, I've been spending a lot of time reading and studying from some of the more emerging, I guess you could call them women in health science and orthopedic doctors and menopause doctors. And I would say now the general consensus is you need a lot less cardio than you thought. Sprint training, maybe 30 minutes of sprinting on and off twice a week seems to be good, enough to put your body under that duress. But it can be really counterproductive if you do too much. And here's the other thing, that big mistake I made for years was exercising in a fasted state. For women, it can be really challenging. Now, I'm not a doctor.
Okay, wait. So, I typically go to the gym first thing in the morning, which of course, I haven't eaten from probably 6 o'clock the night before. So, I've fasted for probably a good 12 hours.
Yeah, it can be difficult for women as they're going through life stage transitions. And the reason why is because of this hormone called cortisol, right? Cortisol is your fight or flight hormone. It's what your body releases when it needs a surge of energy and it feels you need to do something intense quickly. And that's great. The problem is we live in a world today where cortisol is so often elevated. Some people do great working out if they're fasted, but if it's not working for you and you find yourself being stressed, angry, agitated, having difficulty sleeping, your heart's racing, you might be in a state where your cortisol is too high throughout the day, and it can be because you exercise in a fasted state. So I've started to have a very small amount to eat before I go to the gym. I might do half of a macro-balanced smoothie, a little bit of coconut milk yogurt with collagen or creatine or something in it to give myself a little something. And I find that I do better because that's one of my challenges is I tend to be a high cortisol person. So I need to bring that down. It does vary by individual, but fasting is really interesting. It can be, and this is what's so exciting about this time, we're really finding people who are studying how women are different than men.
Really?
Right? Who would have thought?
Okay, I want to go back before we move on to a different subject because you were talking about how you eat a little bit before you go to the gym. Did that make a difference in your gym workout or later on in the day when you were trying to sleep at night? I mean,
I think both.
Okay.
I think I recently got back into lifting heavier. I started back at doing it seriously this fall, and I think it gave me a better balance to work out in the morning and not come home from the gym just ravenous, eating whatever's available. That was the other thing, is I could better predict and manage my meals because I wasn't so famished. But I also found it gave me more consistent energy in the day. Cortisol impacts your circadian rhythm, which is how you sleep, right? In theory, it spikes early in the morning, it wakes you up, and it gradually declines in the day. Because we live in a world where there's so many more stressors, cortisol can remain elevated across the day, and that can mess with your circadian rhythm and your ability to sleep. If what you're doing is working for you, great. It's not an issue. But there was this misnomer that you could get up and it was great to work out in a fasted state and you would burn fat. And that can be true. But as women go through life stage transitions, because of these interconnected hormones and progesterone and estrogen are plummeting, that affects other hormones. For example, progesterone, your calming hormone, works in opposition of cortisol. So when cortisol goes up, progesterone goes down. Okay, so you can see how for different individuals, which is why it can feel confusing, what works might be based upon how they manage stress. What is their overall cortisol pattern? Where is their progesterone at? How is it relative to their estrogen? So hormones are complicated, fascinating, but complicated because there are just so many players and they move together and apart, and it can be difficult to figure it out. But if fasting and working out works for you, great. If it doesn't, try eating a couple hundred calories of a macro-balanced meal, fat, protein, and carbohydrate balanced, and it might just give you a little bit smoother workout and more steady energy across the day.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense because the way that you said it, I was, what made the difference in your body, so that makes sense. Like for me, like you said, you came home and you were hungry. I am not hungry when I come home from the gym. I force myself to eat something because I've just worked out and it's important to put some sort of fuel. But I could go probably another 2 or 3 hours after my workout.
Yeah,
before I'm hungry, really hungry.
There is some science that suggest when you eat in a fast or work out in a fasted state, you can be burning muscle, and you don't want to do that, right? You want to be burning your glucose, your carbohydrates, and your fat. Now, depending on how much you have of all that, you've certainly gone through your glucose most likely over the night. So you might be into fat burning, which would be good. But if you didn't have any fat left, you're going to go into protein, which is going to be your muscle.
Oh, trust me, I have plenty of fat.
I'm saying. But the point is, that's why it's so unique by individual. It depends on what your body makeup is and kind of how you burn different macronutrients for fuel, what might work for you.
I'm going to try that. I'm going to try eating a little bit before I go to the gym and see what happens.
If you need a macro-balanced smoothie recipe, let me know. I'm happy to share one. But
sure.
I have half of a smoothie, and it just kind of gets me on the way to the gym, and it kind of gets me through it. And then about an hour after I get home from the gym, I can have a more balanced meal, larger meal.
So let's talk about women and their hormones. And I guess men go through the same thing, but I think more than it's ever even talked about for men, because they normally don't talk about their hormones. Let's talk about both, though, because it's important that I think a lot of men lose their testosterone as they get older. And actually, it's quite young, isn't it? 30-something?
Men can start losing testosterone at a young age, and we have testosterone too, and we lose it as well. We hear a lot about estrogen and progesterone, but the truth is all of our hormones decline just like men's do. The good thing is both sexes can benefit from weightlifting. Testosterone is positively correlated with muscle. So it is a good thing. And in fact, I have a couple male clients who said, I was told I shouldn't be lifting heavy. I said, who told you that? You don't want to be overdoing it and straining and hurting yourself, but muscle's positively correlated with testosterone. So it burns fat, it does so many wonderful things. So both genders can greatly benefit from lifting heavy properly, maybe get a trainer or watch some videos to make sure you're doing it safely, but that's a win for everyone. The other thing I want to talk about is blood sugar, because like it or not, imbalanced blood sugar makes it really hard for anyone to balance their hormones. So blood sugar, right, is glucose and nutrients in your body that will impact your insulin levels. Really high insulin levels leads to cardiovascular disease, diabetes, dementia, etc. The more you can balance your blood sugar, the more you're going to balance your hormones, and that's gender neutral. So, as I said, insulin goes up, cortisol goes up, progesterone goes down. So you can see how when you move one and it gets out of balance, others can fall in a domino. So to balance your blood sugar, healthy fat, fiber, and protein, every meal and snack. And the reason
And
why...
how often do you eat?
I eat 4 times a day.
Okay.
I do well with that.
Does that include the smoothie you eat
I do a
before you
little
go to the gym?
smoothie.
Okay.
I do a late, big breakfast. I do a later lunch, and I do a healthy dinner. And there may be a post-dinner snack. I'm somebody who
What's your post-dinner snack?
It depends.
Did you bring me avocados?
Funny story about the avocados. We were at a nutrition seminar yesterday and talking about the right amount of avocado. And I said, there's these teeny tiny avocados at Trader Joe's that are a perfect portion. So I brought you some teeny tiny avocados. And
But you can only eat half of it.
well, you might be able to eat a whole, but they're not that teeny tiny.
No,
right?
they're not. This
But
is not what
they're
I thought
great.
teeny tiny was.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking teeny
No.
tiny, like this big.
It's a little inside joke we have, but they're a great
Thank you.
portion. I cut half of it and put it in a smoothie or something. They'll need to be ripened. But the point is healthy fat, protein, and fiber will slow down the metabolism of the glucose and the sugar. So you don't want your sugar to go up and your sugar to go down. You want a steadier curve in your sugar because that's more balanced to energy. When you have those crazy spikes, that's when you get into prediabetes, diabetes, and metabolic chaos. So the fat, fiber, and protein in the right portions will help balance out that insulin, and it will set you up to be hormonally more balanced, better sleep, better energy, less stress. It is one of the easiest things I think to do that really helps every gender.
But your balance is different than my balance. So how do I figure out what my balance is?
So portion-wise, a way to think about this, and it's a little bit general, but we'll start as a conversation. Roughly 40% of your calories can be a healthy carb with fiber, 30 can be fat, and 30 can be protein, give or take. I like healthy carbs for many people. I can't give medical
Wait, say that
advice.
again. 30 fiber, 40 carbs,
Yeah,
30
just
fat.
as a general rule, you want the most healthy carbs, so that might be about 40,
Okay.
45, followed
And
by...
chocolate is not a healthy carb.
It can be. We'll talk about that in a second. We'll talk about what to pair it with, so it is. So you want 40 to 45 carb, 25 to 30 protein, and 20 to 25 fat, generally speaking. That's not for everyone, but that's what we call a balancing diet. And that's a way to think about it. Now, portion sizes can vary, right? Based upon your size, your metabolism, how active you are, how sedentary you are. But there's a lot of cues you can use, like your meat can be the size of your palm. Healthy fats can be the size of 2 dice. A healthy carb can be 2 fistfuls. So there are cues you can use on your body because your body is a different size based upon your size. So there's some cues of your body that you can use as indicators for rough portion sizes as a starting point, right? But you're right, the calories we need will vary. Activity level, your overall state of your health, your physical size, your goals, all that matters. But if you just start by doing a healthy carb, which has fiber, and that's not a potato chip, think of fiber, and we can talk about fiber if that's helpful. Fat, healthy fat, and a protein, that's going to be a great way to get you further along in your hormone balance, independent of gender, age, or anything else.
Okay, I can do that.
Mm-hmm. You can do that. See, I told you.
I know I can do that. Will I do it would be the other thing. But I'm trying to live till I'm 100, so I do need to start eating healthier. Is there a way of, because I know as your body, like, you know, when you go have your blood work done for your annual physical and they check, you know, your thyroid and for our progesterone, is really all they check, right? They check the 4. They don't. Oh, insulin.
They
check.
should be checking your fasting glucose,
Yeah, they do that.
your A1C,
Right. And then thyroid,
sex hormones.
sex hormone. But I don't think they check anything else. But okay. But that's because you've taken that in the morning typically. How do you, I guess what I struggle with is during the day, that isn't what it would normally be at that moment they're taking that.
Yeah, so you bring up
Do
a
you know
great
what I'm trying to get out?
You bring up a great point, is that it's at one point in time.
Yes.
Blood work is a great indicator of many things, but it is at one point in time, and some tests like A1C can be reflective of a 90-day average. Other tests are just that point in time. So you look at trends. Trends are really important. And you look at how somebody is feeling and how their body's presenting itself. You look at their waist ratio. You look at their sleep pattern. You look at how they feel. You look at their body composition. So testing is wonderful, but it does have limitations, and you've just pointed out one of them. It can be at one point in time. So, I get my blood work taken every 6 months. I've chosen to work with a functional doctor. That's my gig. And I know every 6 months. And that's why generally when I get clients, I look for their blood work and I say, give me up to 2 years if you have it. I'd like to see trend, because there can be anomalies. You could be dehydrated one day. That could show up in your blood work. You could have some virus you're not even aware of. That could affect your cells. So having trend and looking at that trend is really beneficial. And then looking how your body's presenting itself and how you're feeling.
We know that the meeting we were at yesterday, Valerie was talking about supplements. And as women, we are going through menopause, that they offer replacement hormones. And I'm sure there's probably other supplements for other hormones. Is that something that people should be taking, or can it be done through diet?
I think it can be done through diet, but I will say, I've spent some time studying this, and there's been a lot of information that was more readily available and more transparently presented recently that suggests hormone replacement therapy can be hugely beneficial for women. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling anyone to take it, but it is something that we're learning a lot more about. Estrogen at the right time and the right dosage, highly protective. Brain health, a lot of things. As I said, progesterone, here's the interesting thing. Most women will experience a decline in progesterone before estrogen. Historically, they just gave you estrogen. They were just setting off that imbalance more so. So if you're going to do it, my advice is a trained practitioner who really knows what they're doing, who tests regularly, and looks at, again, the constellation. But you can do a lot with lifestyle. As I said, balancing your blood sugar. We could talk about movement and muscle and what that does to glucose, right? Your muscles absorb the glucose. So the more muscle you have, the less circulating sugar, the lower the insulin. We can talk about sleep. Here's the truth. One night of poor sleep will give you higher insulin the next day. That will cause your cortisol to be higher. So there's all these lifestyle factors, balancing your blood sugar, prioritizing sleep with a sleep routine, getting sunlight, the right type of light at the right time of the day. Important to get sunlight early in the morning. Not good to be on blue light
live in
late
Michigan.
at night. You could look out your window for 10 minutes.
If we have sun.
Yes, but even if you don't, you'd be surprised. You want to cue your body to know it's morning. I use a red light device in the morning in Michigan, and I sit in front of it for 15 minutes.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second, because I looked into those, and they range from inexpensive to extremely expensive, from the mask that goes on your face to the whole body thing to the thing you lay on and all these different things. What is the I guess, the minimum?
Yeah, I can tell you 2 brands, if that's okay.
Sure.
There's a brand called Lumi and a brand called Fringe. I have Fringe. From the research I've done, they're 2 really reputable brands. I'm not saying there aren't other ones, but I look at, does it emit a lot of EMFs? You don't want that. I look at, there's 2 different wavelengths. Does it have that? I have a panel from Fringe. They run a 40% off sale a few times a year, and I bought it when that happened. It has 3 settings. I can do regular red light, which is great for healing, mitochondria, etc. and then I can do a different setting for the morning to kind of wake my body up. It's really quite powerful. And I'll be honest, I have a couple mentors that are functional people and naturopaths, and they talked a lot about it. And one of them was really a big fan of this brand called Fringe, and I looked into it. It's pretty good. Lumi is another one. It's smaller and more portable. They're both several $100s, but they run sales across the year. And I'm not advocating for them. I have no interest. I just have learned that red light can be really beneficial. Part of when you age, what happens is you get tired because your mitochondria get tired. You don't have as many. They're not as healthy. You have dead cells that need to be leaving that aren't. You have all this stuff going on. So the red light can help kind of feed your mitochondria and give them a little bit more energy and kind of boost what they can do and how they perform. So it's worth looking into if you're interested in it. But my point was that light at the wrong time of day can mess you up. So can you balance your hormones naturally? Yes. It takes a lot of discipline, but I also think there are so many things today that we're learning can be beneficial in terms of bioidentical replacement, yam cream. There's a lot of things out there. Wild yam cream, some people use to boost progesterone. There's a lot of, but again, if you're going to do any of that, find a trained expert who really knows about the options around it. Because like anything, as we talked about yesterday, even supplements that seem harmless can do damage if they're not used right. You should never take anything because everyone's taking it. You should be taking something because it's addressing something specific to your body. And if you feel that you're going through a transition and you want support, get a couple points of view from people who are informed and trained, and then figure out what works best for you.
It's funny you said that. My book club the other day, everybody there has this long, gorgeous hair. I mean, long, gorgeous hair, except me. And they were talking about how, as they're getting older, they're losing a lot of their hair. And one girl goes, "Oh, I took this, and it seems to be working for me." And everybody goes, "What was it?" And everybody got on their phones and ordered it.
Yeah.
And who knew if that was right for them? But because it worked for her,
Right.
we're assuming it's going to work.
Right.
I didn't order it, but
Good for you. Well, so hair loss can be many things. It can be thyroid, and women's thyroid, because of the changes in other sex hormones, it can be challenged. At times it might have been baseline healthy all along, and you go through a change and all of a sudden your thyroid isn't performing as well. It can be macronutrient deficiencies. People don't talk about digestion. You aren't what you eat, you are what you digest and absorb. If your digestion isn't working well, even though you're eating well, you might not be getting nutrients. Your hair isn't considered critical to your health. So guess what?
but it's critical to your confidence.
But you understand why your body would be like, I'm not going to fuel your hair. I need to fuel your organs and your muscles and your...
I can get that, but...
I hear you. I happen to like my hair too.
Yeah.
But the point is there's many things that can. There's hair vitamin supplements, there's colostrum, there's all kinds of things that can work if that's what is causing your hair loss. But again, understanding.
Yeah, because taking whatever she suggested might have been working for her because she does work with a health coach, but isn't necessarily going to work for me because what she was taking was iodine.
Okay, so that's thyroid.
That's a thyroid issue.
Thyroid.
So I'm on thyroid medication, and I thought, do I really need to be adding more iodine into my system? Probably not.
So iodine can be very beneficial, but I would say this. We talked about this yesterday. Always start with food. It's hard to do damage by eating foods and getting the nutrients from them because you'd have to eat so much of something. So it's always best to start with food, right? Because you're going to get the right amount of a nutrient, and you're going to get nutrient the way that it's meant to be consumed with other nutrients that support it. For example, zinc works really well with some things, but on its own, without enough copper, can make your hair gray. So when you eat things through food...
Did you guys hear that, women? Zinc without copper can make your hair gray.
During COVID, a lot of people were popping zinc,
Yeah.
understandably for their immune system, but if it's not with copper, it can have some effect. So the point is food
Who knew?
Who knew? But food is a great way to get it. Iodine is something that's very specific to a thyroid. So if you are not in a situation where your thyroid isn't functioning well, I would be really reluctant to add iodine. There are tests you can do to talk about if you need it, but that's a whole other...
I know I went to a holistic nutritionist before. Not that I'm recommending that you do this. Go find your own person. But she would say, put iodine on your belly and see how fast it absorbs.
That's exactly right. And it tells you if you're iodine deficient or not. So somebody who knows what they're doing will help you understand. They can do a test. They can give you clues like that. There's things you can do with your body to tell if you are in a cortisol-driven state. There's a lot of things that, again, how your body's presenting itself gives you a lot of clues. You know, I do something called a food mood poop journal. And it's something every client does because it gives me
journal.
It gives me great insight to how their digestion's working, how they fuel their body, how their body responds to what they're eating and what they're doing. So there's so many ways you might not have the knowledge, but a trained professional will have the knowledge to say, here's how I can help you assess what's likely going on. And it's never perfect, but we can get close to understanding. And then at that point, we might run a couple tests to kind of tune up the car a bit more.
You know what? We're out of time.
How about that?
I know, but I have a gazillion questions. So we're going to definitely have to have you back.
I would love that. I could talk about this all day and help people all day for certain.
So how does somebody get a hold of you?
Somebody can reach me. I'm Susan, the letter C, Nourish. Susan C. Nourish is my website. It's my Instagram handle. And my name is Susan Carrier, and you can find me on LinkedIn. And I also offer a free 30-minute consultation to understand what you're facing and to help understand if I'm the right person who might be able to help you.
Yeah, very knowledgeable.
Thank you. I love it. And
I do have a ton of questions. So we will definitely have to have Susan back to learn some more about just understanding our body in general. So this has been Unstoppable, where we dream, grow, and thrive. Talk to you next week.
Thanks for watching Unstoppable. Do you have a question for Paula? Send it our way. To schedule a one-on-one consultation, give us a call. Unstoppable is brought to you by Paula Swain and the Financial Center for Women. Dream, grow, thrive.